Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast. We've got another interesting conversation for you this evening. With me, our two special guests. We have Basil Butcher Jr., coach, and Karen Bayles. Basil is going to introduce Karen for us shortly. All right? So please do share the broadcast, tell a friend, um, you know, tell them that Bits and Pieces is on. All right. Basil, where did Karen go?
I don't
All
know.
right. All right. All right. While she gets her stuff together.
Uh-huh.
Anything special happening in the cricketing world, Basil, before we go on?
Well, at the moment, we have some international fixtures. I'll start there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have West Indies are in Pakistan playing an ODI series. We have South Africa just started a T20 series with India in India. Um, the South African women are also in Ireland. You have the Test series in England with New Zealand and England.
Mm-hmm.
And in the West Indies, just started on Tuesday, continue today, the regionals for the women, the regional women's tournament,
Tournament.
both the
Okay.
T20 format and the 50 over format in Guyana.
Okay, cool. So, Basil, now that Karen is back with us, could you please introduce
Sorry
Karen for
about
us?
that.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's okay.
Well, Karen Bayles was one of my team leaders when I was the head coach for the USA women's team. When we went to the ICC Americas Women's World Cup qualifiers in 2012, she actually had to take over as a captain when our captain fell sick for one of the games. And she's a good player. I mean, I remember the coach from Bermuda come up to me. He said, that girl that opens the pack for you, she gives it the thumb because she was like the only woman that could hit the ball out of the ground."
Wow.
Which she did a couple of times. And we're not talking about a small ground. We're talking about a regulation size ground, And I always remember that same game against Bermuda because Karen is a tremendous close to the wicket fielder,
Mhm.
great catcher. So
Okay.
that would always be her spot on the field, and she was at short mid wicket, and there was the best batter in Bermuda. She hit one, smoked it through, and the ball must have been like about a foot off the ground or so. She took it and threw it up.
Wow.
We were like, "Bro," she's like, "Coach Bush, my hand is killing me."
I
But it was
remember
a
that.
tremendous catch, and
Right.
the rest of the game we just went through. But she's a great student of the game, and I think the audiences are going to really get to hear her knowledge on cricket here tonight. So welcome
Okay.
tonight, Karen.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me.
that. Welcome. All right, we'll get things started with our little report from uh, our bits and pieces man at large, Brian R. Kane. All right, here's Brian with his report for this week.
Hey everybody, Brian Arcane here, Bits and Pieces umpiring correspondent. I have found my way back to New York City from Houston, Texas, where I umpired 450 over games during the Major League Cricket Invitational warm-up matches between Nepal, Oman, the Houston Hurricanes, the Nepali All-Stars, and a Major League Cricket Select 11 made up of some of the best players in the country not playing for the USA Cricket squad right now in the ODIs versus Oman and Nepal as well. It was a heck of a week. The temperatures rose over 90 up to 95 degrees every single day we were there. It was a taxing time for everybody involved. Players and umpires all got used to the conditions over the 4 days. Interestingly, Nepal lost their first game to the Nepali All-Stars and then won their second game quite easily against the Houston Hurricanes. And then in the very similar vein, the Major League Cricket Invitational 11 won the first game against Oman in an absolute thriller with 9 wickets down in the last over. Cornet Dry hit the winning runs in order to send the MLC Invitational 11 over the line against Oman. In the second match, Oman chased a massive score of more than 300 with the captain Zishan Maksud hitting 172, getting out very late in the day and setting his team on course to win that game in another thriller. Today is Wednesday and we saw Oman lose to Team USA in the first game of their ODI series. From an umpiring perspective, it was an amazing weekend for me and some of the umpires involved. It was a chance for us to gather and for some of us to do games like this for the very first time with this level of competition. And we learned a lot from the senior umpires that we're working with. Both the 3 ICC umpires who are working in the ODIs who were there to help coach us during our stay, as well as Rushane Samuels, the most experienced of our PCT this weekend, who really guided us through the rhythms of 50 over cricket. For those of us here in the US, we often are only doing 40 over cricket at max, and some of us were doing 50 over cricket for the first time. So it was really exciting to get out there with Rushane, to be invited there by Major League Cricket, who took care of us really well. And it was really nice to be out there to learn a lot from my colleagues and to spend a couple of days with some of the best players in the country, some of the best associate players in the world. I look forward to USA the next couple of games here in the ODIs. And just today, the minor league schedule for the season was released for everybody to see, and I cannot wait to get back on the field in minor league cricket here in New York, in New Jersey, in Connecticut, in Philadelphia, wherever they need me. I will be there. Thank you very much, Anansi. Bits and pieces. I'll see you next time.
All right, that's Brian R. Kane with his report. Karen, cricket is coming to World Cup cricket is coming to the US.
It is.
What do you see it doing for the game here, or what do you hope that it could do for the game here?
You know, we look at sports in general in the United States, and we know what a powerhouse the US is in every aspect, in every sport, all around the world, and the amount of money that's poured into making these things great. We can just look at soccer, the US, the women's soccer team that has such an amazing following now. And that, I guess, is the ultimate dream for everybody playing cricket now, is hoping that we could follow those footsteps. And I mean, that growth has been in less than a decade. It hasn't been a monumental amount of time to get where they are. And so I'm hoping that bringing some of these cricket greats, I mean, the best in the world will be here. Men, women, everybody needs to come out and see it. So we all need to do our part to encourage those who haven't seen the game and have never watched or have never heard about the game, because there's plenty of Americans who don't know. I'm hoping that we can all do our part to bring those people to the stadiums, to DC 1 or 2, or watch it on some sort of TV, internet streaming. I'm hoping that the World Cup coming will inspire some kids to want to play. We have a lot of expats here, and we're all playing, and we've all played, and we're all involved in some way. But it needs to come from the grassroots. It needs to be the 5-year-old who gets to pick. Hey, I want to play baseball or cricket. It doesn't. We don't hear that. We don't hear that here in Florida. We hear it sometimes in New York, maybe a little bit in California, but that's really where it stops. So I'm hoping to see this bring at least some coverage, whether it's streaming on the internet, whether it's TV, whether it's local guys going to the game. Bring your neighbors, bring your friends, encourage the expats to bring some American friends. Let's start spreading the word that it's coming. Let's build a hype.
Okay. Tell our audience a little about your own background, Karen. Where you from, and how did you get involved with cricket?
So I was born in South Africa. So as we know, you've got a couple choices, of sports out there, and cricket's obviously the number one. So I've been playing for as long as I can remember. It's not really a gender thing in South Africa. We all play, whether you're boy, girl, and it starts as young as 4 or 5 years old competitively. So I grew up in the school systems. I went through, grade school, high school, club level, provincial level, South African invitation level. And then I moved to the US. So it was a big gap between moving here at 17 and then starting to play again in my late 20s. So I missed out on a whole decade. So yeah, we, Team USA for a number of years, and then some club level in New York, and but unfortunately now I'm too old for that. So yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, there's some wonderful coaches out here that are trying to keep people involved, but it's not quite where I'd like to see it yet. So I'm hoping that's going to change.
Okay, great. All right. Now we're gonna we want to look this evening at the art of feeling. We want to talk about the positioning of the body, how you go after the ball, and to talk with Basil about building the arm, building arm strength, and all of that. Now, Karen, would you say that in terms of being on the field, was that a good place for you? And if yes, what was your favorite fielding position?
Well, I like the slips. I always have. I feel like you get the best view of what's happening from all aspects. From what I'd like to say batsmen, but now we have to say batters. What the batter's doing, and I also like the aspect of the angles and who's where they should be and where they shouldn't be, and I think, speaking from a woman's perspective, the women's game, unfortunately, a lot of that is showing up, batting, bowling, and we go home. There's so much more to that, and being in the first slip position, I get a lot more opportunities to, hey, you got to go 4 feet to your left, or hey, your pocket's too deep, or whatever the case might be. Right. So that's always been my favorite. First slip has always been the one for me.
The one for you. Okay, great. We want to start off with something that may not be that obvious in terms of the use of the hands, but in a ball chase, right? Now you're chasing the ball is running towards the boundary. What are you thinking as a fielder, and what are you and are you at any point thinking of exactly how you're going to place your hands, what you're going to do with your hands? All right. So I'm going to show a little clip, and then I'm going to come back to you guys.
Sure.
Certainly coming to see a big day of Guyana Tri-County cricket. So Michael Lobo, who cuts and cuts well, there's a big chase in the plan, pick up now, and gets right in, makes a dive, and that's a good looking shot, cut away, milk.
Okay, Basil and Karen, were you both able to see that?
I was, yes.
Okay. So Basil, take us into the field, man. You're moving. The ball is in front of you. Your sole objective is to get that ball before it hits the boundary. Are you at any point thinking of how you're going to use your hands when you get to that ball, or is just the foot and the mind? What's going on?
Just before that is the young man I was telling you about, Alex Curtin. That was him chasing the ball.
Oh, okay.
Rusty,
okay, good.
that was him. Okay. Karen knows him also. Yes. first thing, like in that instance, is you're thinking the angle that you're gonna use to intercept the ball, to cut the ball off. That's your first duty, is to try to cut the ball off. Then once you could cut the ball off and pick up with your throwing hand, is to get yourself into a strong position that you can make an accurate and strong throw back to either the non-striker's end or to the wicketkeeper. You can't really think about where you're going to position your hands up, because those are things you practice that are innate because you practice them so much. Your job is, the technique is to cut the ball off and get as quickly into a strong position that you can throw the ball back accurately to either end, if you need to cut to effect a run out or to prevent more runs going on.
Okay.
Guys, I don't
Thank
mean
you.
to cut you off, but
No, you could go ahead, Karen.
if you look at that video, and again, it's just a general observation, and we can go back to baseball here. We have to anticipate where the ball's going. And you can see when he leans back to cut that ball, the fielder is standing still. He hasn't made a decision, and he hasn't anticipated that the ball is going behind square.
Correct.
He's still standing, waiting to make that decision.
Yes.
When that batter went across to cut, you could already see he was going to play the ball there, and he should have already picked his angle at that point. So,
excellent point, Karen, because I was going to say that. I'm glad you brought it up, because that was the first thing I noticed. He turned to run after the ball was past him.
Yes.
And that and again, Karen is correct, because I remember when I was doing a coaching cert, level 3, Cricket Australia, they took us to Miami, the Miami baseball team. They were playing, they took us to a game, and where we were right at left field. So we could observe closely the outfielders. And one of the things I've always said that we in cricket need to look at in terms of fielding, like how they do in baseball, is the anticipation aspect as to where the ball would go from the crack of the bat or the movement of the player. I mean, it's interesting that people in today, with all the technology and all of those things, the great Sir Garfield Sobers, one of the things he was so good at, he used to feel a leg slip when Lance Gibbs was bowling the off breaks. And he took a bunch of catches, and people were asking, Sir Gary, how you use it? He said he always looked at the batter, where the batter picked up their bat. And so he always would position himself, because he would know when they played the ball, where they were going to play the ball. So he always kept adjusting himself based on that anticipation. And that's something, I don't know how, if it's taught as much in cricket, or players, pick it up with their experience. Because I mean, I give the guy from Karen's country, John T. Rhodes, he was brilliant at that.
Great.
Because just like that shot, he would be walking in, and based on where he saw the player was backing up, you would see him cut across. So a player might play the ball backward and square and swear he beat the field, and look up, the ball is in John T. Rhodes' hand, because he anticipated and moved in that direction. Right. And boom, you look up and you probably almost shit in your pants. Oh my God, because you thought you had a run. No. And you look up and the guy is in the position because he anticipated. And the other thing with anticipating, I just want to point out from baseball, you ever look at baseball outfielders, they rarely move when the ball is cracked, the crack of the bat. They look until the apex of the ball. So they now anticipate what would be the drop-in zone. And then they would move. You only would see them move if the ball is a line drive before that. But they don't move until the ball hits the apex, and then they know the drop-in zone is going to land into. We often see outfielders in cricket, as soon as the ball hits, they already start moving. Sometimes they don't realize they have time to get into a better position because and to make the catch if they anticipated better.
Okay.
Well, there's also a lot of tricks to that. I mean, you have to understand who's bowling, first of all. We all know that if there's a quick there, the ball is going to go behind square far more likely than if it's a spinner, it's going to go to the covers. Correct. So there's a lot more to it than just, seeing where where you think it's going to go. Of course, that's important. But to your point, John T. Rhodes, of course, was a great. And growing up, he was our idol. It was my era. And you know, the thing with him was the quickest distance to the ball is A to B, right? So he was already moving before you hit the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, on that very point, Basil, in terms of judging the ball, we have a clip here. And this fielder seemed to do a few things wrong. Didn't judge the ball properly, didn't pick it up properly, and then in throwing, you know, it was a bad throw. So, you know, I'll show this and then you guys can take on it. Judging the ball. As a fielder, Karen, what would he have needed to correct it?
Well, he was tripping over his own feet because he would have had better off trying to catch the ball over his shoulder than trying to backpedal.
Yes.
He wasn't in line. The ball was to his left. So what he should have done is turn to his left and run back and caught it over his right shoulder.
Correct.
Unfortunately, and I don't know what field that is, but the grass doesn't look exactly level.
It's not pretty friendly.
There could be some mishaps, some turned ankles.
Yeah, so he's gonna fall on his rear end. I mean, he's lucky he didn't land on his butt instead of, you know, he didn't give himself a chance at all.
No. Yeah, and that also, just to add to what Karen said, yes, the first thing, again, going back, and this is also where we can take from football wide receivers.
Right.
A football wide receiver, the first thing when that ball went up, that wide receiver would turn so he or she could look over their right shoulder, have a clear view of the ball as they're running back, and catch the ball. The minute he started backing up, it was a disaster. He had no chance whatsoever, right? And again, people always talk about these over-the-shoulder catches, the most difficult catches in cricket. It's because the technique that lots of people do make it look as the most difficult catch. But we all here live in the United States, and we see these wide receivers, the catches that they make routinely over their shoulder because they train that, they practice that technique. And because those catches happen in cricket a lot, we need to practice those techniques, taking it from those sports.
All right. And the other thing is, if
they
you
also
see,
would turn, yeah.
If you see the shot that was played,
yes,
you know, again, this comes with experience. I don't know this player. I don't know how long, but the shot that was played, you could see the ball. It wasn't from the middle of the bat, so we knew it was going to spin away. So that shot right away told me that it was going to if I was fielding, it was going to my left. It was a giveaway. So again, those are things you learn with experience. When the ball's coming off the bat, and to anticipate where it's going is from the shot that was played. And funny enough, the sound that the bat made was going to tell you where it was going.
Yeah, because you hear the nice, sweet sound of the bat.
It wasn't sweet.
You know it's going to be
it was a chip off the edge.
Yeah. Yeah, and that guy was in the position he could have fell and hit his head.
Yeah,
I've seen guys like that.
Concussion.
Try to catch it. They're backing up. They lose their balance, and because you have no way to break the fall, they fall back, hit their head, concussion.
The best thing to do is to find that ball and get to it as quickly as you can, and that's running forward. You know, not turn around and run forward instead of trying to backpedal. It's never a good idea.
No.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you both for that. Now, those little moments on the field, Basil, when you know how do you teach a player not to lapse in the field? Is there really a way, you know? Especially, you know, for the ball that is just rolling slowly towards them. And then, they bend, everybody anticipate, okay, they're going to pick it up. And then the ball trickles past. Is there a way in which you can instruct or teach a player, how to deal with those moments?
Well, firstly, the first question you asked about lapsing, and because cricket, similar to the baseball outfielders, lots of times you're feeling in the outfield in cricket, and you might be out there for almost the whole inning of your team, and hardly any balls come your way. So how do you keep yourself in the game? And one of the things I usually tell players, count the balls. Count the balls so that way you're keeping your head in the game throughout. Because yes, it can be lonely, and then boom, if you're not paying focus, a ball hits your way, and because you're not fully focused, exactly what you said can happen. You can misfield because you weren't focused, or you can misfield because your technique was poor in your approach. And we would always want a player, you're approaching the ball, to have your body behind the ball more times than not. There are obviously other times, you got to make an athletic play outside of your body and the ball is not there. But you're approaching the ball, you always would want to be in a position where your foot is behind the ball. So if you go down to bend to pick the ball up and it misses, it hits some part of your leg, or you go along barrier where you would go down on a knee based on which hand you throw it. Like if you're a right-handed thrower, you would go down on your left knee. Off, which is interesting. We see even at the international level, a guy's a right-hander thrower and he goes down with his right knee, which means he has to turn all the way around. So the batter's running. You see that you could run another run in him, because now that fielder has to turn all the way around to get into position to throw. And that split second is all you need to make another run.
Okay. Karen, let's take a look at this and let's tell me, what the field is doing wrong here. Does he look like he decided that
got
it's
himself
not
into a serious mess there? So I'm not quite sure. It's hard to tell from this angle, but it's almost looking like his body was facing the non-striker set of stumps. So that was odd. And then he's right-handed, but he's trying to take the ball on the left side of his body. So he's not attacking the ball. And I understand there wasn't really a play there for a run out. So he kind of got himself under pressure for no reason. But he also looked up to throw the ball instead of having the ball in his hand before he could actually just, get rid of it.
Yeah. And to add to that, the interception, he was running alongside the ball rather than trying to intercept the ball.
Attack it.
So if he had done that, he would have been able to pick it up with his right hand.
And we also teach players two hands. I mean, there's no reason for him to go at it with one.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
So,
yeah, because as we say, there are times you will make an athletic play with the one hand,
right.
But more times than not, if you intercept right, you can feel it with both hands.
Right. Well, because there was no play there, so I'm not quite
No,
sure
exactly.
what he was trying to do.
He was escorting the ball rather than trying to get the ball.
Listen, it was Sunday afternoon. He's
Yes.
been out there all day. Give him a break.
Yeah. and as Karen correctly pointed out, the fielders often make this mistake in catching. Also, they take their eyes off the ball before they actually full affect the catch, or fielding the ball. They're looking elsewhere. Field the ball, because if you don't field the ball, you can't do the run out.
Exactly.
Right.
And you have players. You have a wicketkeeper who should be screaming at you which end anyway. So
exactly.
It's not your job. Your job is to get hold of the ball and then listen to the call and make the play. That's it.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, great. Karen, in while you were in slips, did that catch ever come to you that you were supposed to hold on to.
Oh, plenty.
And
Oh, every game, at least one.
and
Oh yeah.
what about the few times where you may have been able to recover? You know, it bounced, but you were able to recover. What goes through the mind?
Absolutely nothing. If anything's
Mm.
going through your mind at that point, you're gonna drop it.
You're gonna
The
drop
only
it.
thing you care about is finding it and putting your hands around it. That's it.
Okay.
Excellent.
You're watching the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast. We'll be back with you in 15 seconds. We're going to look at one of those recovery moments.
Callaway struck into the hands of number 24.
Karen, what led to him almost dropping the ball initially?
You know, this guy actually did really well because he anticipated the ball was going to go down the leg. So he moved that way. And what he did was he stayed really low. If you look at him, he stays in the almost squat position with his hands are really, really low. So it's much easier to come up than it is to go down. So when he kept his hands down, he was able to rebound that ball up instead of it going away from him. So he just basically caught it and pushed up to give himself the third opportunity to grab it because he didn't get on the second, but he did the same thing. He stayed with it, but not just with his hands. His entire body went to the ball, which was gave him the opportunity to hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The only critique I would have is his hands, the position of his hands. The ball hit the heel of his hands. That's why it bounced up.
Yeah, because he was trying to ride instead of stay low.
Just if he took it low, you know, and a catch like that, the fingers should be pointing down, right? His fingers were like in this position, so you wanted it pointing down so he could have caught it in his hand. But because of his position, as Karen said, that allowed him to rebound and take the catch.
Right.
Okay.
If he just stuck his one hand out and kept his feet grounded, he never would have caught that ball.
No, unless it's stick.
Yeah, well, that happens once in a blue moon, but you know.
So Basil, a young upcoming cricketer, what kind of exercises would you suggest that could lend to them becoming a better fielder?
Well, fielding, well, it depends on which aspect you're talking about. If we were just talking about throwing, for example, the first thing to have the strength in the throw is to have proper core stability, right? Because when you have the core stability, your limbs can move fast as they should move. You don't have that stability, you can't. The other thing, I'm not even going to get to the arm yet, is your legs, because the power that comes from the throw starts with your legs driving into the ground, and then your hips and the hips and the trunk gives you the arm speed that you can throw the ball as hard. So you got to have strong. You want to do things to get your legs strong. I don't want to get into all the specific exercises like squats and lunges and varieties of those are things you can do. And then when you get at the arm situation, you obviously you're going to have to strengthen your triceps, your biceps, because those are the arm muscles, and the shoulders, but also you want to also strengthen the muscles that are around your shoulder and your scapula, and have the proper mobility of your shoulder and scapula, because those two things are what we call the layman's term, the shoulder blade. Those two things have to work in concert. If you don't have the right mobility and stability there, you're not going to effect good throws. And next thing you know, your shoulder is damaged because you didn't use your legs, your trunk, your hips to afford to develop the speed to throw the ball, right? So there are a few things there. There's drills. There's something we call arm lag in throwing. It's not just throwing, because as someone who's a movement coach, there are these primitives we call sports primitives. One of them is a throwing primitive, and that throwing primitive is a generalized movement pattern that you see in throwing, you see in bowling, you see it in all types of throwing, whether it's a baseball pitcher, a football quarterback, a cricketer throwing a cricket ball, a javelin person throwing a javelin. You even see that movement pattern in spiking a volleyball, in serving a tennis ball. It's the same generalized movement pattern, but because the implement in the hand of the athlete would have some tweaks in the technique, but it's a generalized program. So first thing I would look at when I just want to just say this, first thing I look at when I watch somebody throw is, are they able to get themselves in those positions that we see as requisite to affect the throw? And if they can, my first inclination is to check if they have a mobility problem at those specific joints I see not getting into the right position. And then I look at their stability, because then their stability, if it's lacking, they will not be able to get themselves into those positions. And then the exercises to strengthen will come into play.
Okay, great. Karen spoke about John T. Rhodes and Basil also. Great. So we grabbed a quick clip from John T. talking about feeling. So we're going to play that now.
Today, let me demonstrate how you can improve your fielding skills inside the circle with these tricks and tips. In my playing days, I always saw myself as a goalkeeper. If I get a catch or a run out, that's a bonus. But essentially, I'm a stopper of the ball. Step 1. Place 2 cones at a distance of 12 feet and take a position in the middle of these cones. Step 2. Ask your friend to throw balls between those cones, and your job is to stop that ball just like a goalkeeper would. The next drill is a bit advanced in nature, as it takes a lot out of you and tests your agility and acceleration. The purpose of this drill is to practice stops, pickup, shy, and backing up. Step 1. An even number of players jog in a circle around the stump with a coach in the middle. Step 2. The coach throws the ball out to a fielder who picks up and flings it at the stumps. Step 3. The throw is backed up by the opposite fielder and returned to the coach. Sharp fielding inside the circle can restrict the run flow and create pressure on batsmen to hit risky shots. You can create a breakthrough by running out the batsman with quick reflexes. So keep practicing, keep getting better. Risky shots. You can create a break.
I found the philosophy, Karen, very interesting in that he's saying he approaches as a goalkeeper, right? And with the one aim to stop the ball. You know what? Your reaction.
Those all brought back very big memories, because we used to do that exact drill, actually.
I love that drill. I love that drill.
I was very lucky. Like I said, I grew up in South Africa, and everything, after 1992, when John T. Rhodes destroyed the furniture in Brisbane, every coaching manual in South Africa was based on whatever he said was gold, So these drills are awesome. And he always came with the philosophy that he didn't have to score 50 or 100 every time he batted, because he already came in with 30 because he saved that many runs in the circle. So the philosophy he had was, like you said, be a goalkeeper. And that's exactly what he did. He took many catches. We all know that. But if you add the amount of runs that he saved in that circle, that's what won so many matches for South Africa in that time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Okay, good. Now, how do you find, Basil, that one could apply or how does one apply the goalkeeper technique in diving for a catch?
Yeah, it is. There again, you see how it's really important where you can take from other sports to enhance skills in cricket. Because it's interesting that John T would say he saw himself as a goalkeeper to stopping the runs in that space where he was controlling. Milton Paidana, the wicketkeeper, one of the reasons he was so good at diving behind the stumps, he was a goalkeeper when he played football. So though that skill transferred to his wicket keeping, that's why he was so agile behind the stumps. And if you look at a goalkeeper, especially when they have to stop a penalty or somebody shot and goal, their footwork, that's where we could take from there, the footwork. And now also, we also practice, you want guys to practice to dive, right? Because that in itself it's a technique. Because we saw what our good friend Rusty diving earlier. He could have hurt himself the way he dived, right?
Yeah.
So we have seen players on the international level diving and injuring themselves because the way they landed, right? And I would bet a lot of those guys that you see get injured like that, they have not spent a lot of time practicing to dive. So there's a way you would dive to roll over on your shoulder so you don't land on the shoulder and damage your shoulder, and sometimes you would want to tell like fast bowlers, like me, if I'm a coach, I'm telling all my fast bowlers, y'all are making a business decision. There will be no diving. Because the last thing I want, I'd rather live with someone scoring 4 runs that my fast bowler is out for the rest of the game or for months because they damaged their shoulder.
Right.
There's also, if you don't practice the dive, there's also, we talk about hard elbows and landing incorrectly because you're going to spill it. It's going to happen.
That's true. When you hit the ground, the ball is going to come out of your hands because you landed poorly.
Okay. Let's look at one diving catch on our local scene.
Former U.S. player Andy Muhammad. He took a diving catch. The ball went up into the air. The batsman Dogan took a splendid catch.
So what did the fielder do right here, Basil?
He did an excellent job. That was an example of what myself and Karen was talking about, anticipation. His anticipation was excellent, so he knew where he had to run to. Maybe if he was a faster guy, he wouldn't have to dive, but that's beside the point. The most important thing that he knew, and he kept his eyes on the ball throughout the entire process and watched that ball into his hands. And high marks for that catch. Excellent catch.
Okay. What's the ball into his hands? I like that. That seems to be a technique that one would have to acquire in terms of actually following the ball until it is,
that's how we teach catching. We teach people to catch, right? The problem is because it's becomes so automatic. Players often, because you would see in warm-up drills before the game, player just going like this, their eyes are somewhere else, but because it's so routine. And I would, every time I've coached players, I would harp. I say, look the ball into your hands, because we're going to get in a situation in a match where a crucial catch is going to come your way, and you're going to do this bad habit of looking somewhere else, not looking that ball into your hand, drop the catch, and it could it could literally cost us the game. So you practice that skill over and over. So it just always becomes catching the ball. You look at the wide receivers in football; those guys always look the ball into their hands. The minute they don't look the ball into their hands, more times than not, they drop the ball because they too make the mistakes, and because it's so routine, they might turn their eyes away at the last second, and the ball bounces off their hands or goes through their hands and hits them in the chest or something like that. So yes, it's just like the same thing we talk about batting. Look at the ball onto the bat, and you don't. And we would say, count 1001 before you lift your head to wherever the ball is going, because usually you know where you're hitting the ball before you actually hit the ball. Mm-hmm. So you're just looking up to see, did I accomplish what I was trying to do? You know, you don't need to look where you're looking to hit the ball. You know what I mean? Because you position yourself we're going away from fielding, but it's the same concept. Looking and if you can do that as a batter too, you're usually playing the ball under your eyes, playing as late as possible. And everyone would know if you can play the ball as late as possible, you give yourself the best chance as a batter.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. We have Karen here for the first time. Karen is a really
we got to bring Karen back some more.
Yeah. So let me. I got to talk a little. I got to talk a little cricket. Yes. With Karen. Karen, currently, what's your favorite format?
Oh, T20 all day. T20 all day. All day. I'm not and Baz knows this. I'm not a huge test fan.
No.
I feel like the game's evolved, but I'll tell you what, Boxing Day, I'm sitting in front of the TV watching Mitch Starc trying to bowl, Johnny Besto's head off right there. But it's I feel like T20 is the future. I'm not a big fan of T10. I feel like it's just too fast. I feel like it's just not enough rhythm in the game, and it's just but I did want to really quickly go back to Baz, what you were saying about the high ball, and I remember having some problems of my own trying to I'm pretty steady onto that thing, but in high school I used to have some problems, and so what a coach of mine did was he took a tennis ball and he had a box of 12 tennis balls, and he wrote one number on the ball with black marker. So what he would do is hit it up, and before you caught it, you had to call the number that was on the ball.
Yes.
Okay.
And or he would color them with color markers, like a circle on the ball, and you had to call the color before you caught it. Yes. So he knew if you were actually watching or not watching.
Yes, I do that drill with players. We call it a letter ball drill. So I would put letters around the ball. So if a player doesn't need a partner, they can throw it against the wall, and whichever letter they see first, they have to call it out into their hand. And it's not only a good drill for them catching, it teaches that tracking the ball that you use when you bat also.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, there was consequences. If you called the wrong number, you were running, my friend. You couldn't just guess. Oh no, there were laps involved.
And you know something? Also, those drills also can be assessment tools for, say, someone like myself to tell that player has a problem with their eyes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the pitch drill, where you have to go mark where the ball landed.
They're not able to focus in with both eyes to see the target clearly, and then we got to do some other things also,
Right.
Okay, great. All right. To close, Karen, I just want you to kind of throw your mind into the future a little. Now, do you think it's possible that USA cricket might go the same way if and when it kicks off as soccer did, where it's the women's soccer team that basically have been doing better in the US? How do you see the men's and women's game going in the US?
I would love to be super optimistic and tell you that I hope and I have great optimism for it taking off and all that. Unfortunately, I will be honest and tell you unless we can figure out a way to incorporate American folks into the game here in this country, it will not go beyond the generation of expats playing now. What you've got now is you've got a ton of expats who have children, and those children have options. They don't have to play cricket. And you've also got a lot of expats pushing their children not to play because it's not a scholarship sport. So unless we can find a way to bring cricket into schools, into grassroots clubs, into more territories besides California, Houston, New York, it's not going to happen. And I would love to tell you that, it will, but we need to spread it far and wide, and we need to spread it amongst the American youth.
Yeah.
Okay. Given that we do have, a very large expat community, there are folks from Caribbean, folks from South, Asia, England, New Zealand, South Africa. What from your own observation? What's like the stickler? What's keeping things back?
Well, I can tell you from my own experience. I have two boys, 4 and 5 years old. They've never held a cricket bat in their life, and I probably have at least 40 of them in my garage. I'm not encouraging it because I've lost the interest in the American system, unfortunately. We need people who are willing to spend their time and effort and bringing it into local communities. Again, we cannot have tournaments in New York, California, and Houston. I mean, when was the last time they really played? I live 10 minutes from Fort Myers in Florida. I'll give you an example. If I want to see a game of cricket, I have to drive 2 hours away, and that's for 8 weeks a year. We used to have a large contingent of Australian, South African players here in Sarasota, and we used to get invited every year to play in a tournament there just as a showcase for cricket. It's all dwindled, unfortunately, and it needs to start somewhere where children are enthusiastic about it. And I'm not really sure how we get to that point. We were at that point back in 2010 when the U.S. women's team had a chance to go to Bangladesh and showcase and be put on the map because that team that they had at the time was so competitive. I mean, that team had leaders. That team had real players who were out of international cricket, right out of the Caribbean. We had a fantastic team that was, and then, politics got in the way and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, a lot of those women are gone now, and they won't be returning, and they weren't left with a good taste in their mouth. If you look at the teams now, and I can't speak too much about the men's team because I don't follow it that much, but I can tell you the current U.S. women's team, for instance, it might as well be a California team. I can't tell you when last I saw a woman. In fact, besides Monique, Matthew, and myself, I don't think there's anybody in Florida that's ever played for the U.S. women's team. We're a huge state. We could play cricket 12 months a year.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I want to add to that what Karen is talking about, because I was part of that women's program at the time, and we felt very strongly at that time that was the best opportunity for the United States of America to have a top 10 cricket team. That's how good a women's team we had at that time. And unfortunately, the administrators, etc., never sought to invest in them. I mean, I had that same conversation when we were out in the Cayman Islands in 2012 with the coach from Canada. And he said the same thing. He felt for the best chance for a team coming out of the Americas region to be a top 10 in the world would be the women, because the gap between the men and the best men players is so vast, right? Whereas the gap at that time between the best women's teams and our team at the time wasn't that big. Now it's gotten like the men now, because you look at the Australias and the women's game has progressed tremendously in the last 10, 12 years. And they dropped the ball. I mean, I remember when we went to California in 2010 for that tournament, we all coming back through the airport because we all got on the same polo shirt. And there's this white American guy with his teenage daughter. And he said to us, who are you guys? And I said, it's a women's cricket team. And I pointed to his daughter. I said, we're looking for people like you to come and play. And he said to his daughter, and you could see the excitement in the young lady's eyes because, you know, women and girls don't have the same wide variety of sport to access like boys and men do, right? So again, cricket would have been a great boom. I always felt, this has always been my opinion, we should have been using the women to grow the game in this country, a la the way soccer with the women grew in this country, because this would have given them another sport. And the great thing about cricket, you don't have, it's your physical attributes do not prevent you. You can be 5 foot and be a superstar, or you can be 6'4" and a superstar. That's the unique thing about cricket, unlike, you know, basketball, you know, your certain body typing and so on and so forth. But they didn't see that vision that we were pushing, you know, and as a result, we're here where we are, pretty much trying to start over from scratch. At that time, we were fighting for ODI status, because if we had gotten where to take the best team to Bangladesh, we had a chance to get ODI status as far back as 2011. But because of politics, the best team didn't go. And now they have just thrown it to US women. They got ODI status without even earning it, as far as I'm concerned. But it's all the politics, because they want to take advantage of the US market, because we're the second largest cricket market in the world. But my problem with the ICC is that the grassroots game is not being developed for us to really become a viable force where you can replenish. And as Karen correctly said, we got to take it outside the expatriates. As I said to you before on this show, that was always my vision, because when I had the women's team in New Jersey, as I said, we had 3 American white women on my team, 3 American that were learning to play cricket. And actually one of them, I always remember her, she got interested in cricket because she was going to college she had friends from England, and the Ashes, you know, the famous, the Ashes in 2005 with us, you know, that great Ashes series, her friends watching this, and she became enamored with the game through test cricket, right? That, I mean, and I would always encourage her and the other American women on my team, you got friends? Can you tell your friends to come? Because we were looking for more people like you guys, because I always wanted to take it outside of expatriate environment so we could take it to mainstream, grassroots America, people who have no connection to cricket, you know, and but that's where we are.
But as Karen said, it doesn't look too. I mean, Karen, you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, right, Karen?
No. I'm being nice. Okay, I'm trying to be really respectful here. Basil knows that I'm counting my words here.
Yes.
I got some real beef with it. I mean, if I have to be really honest, I felt like we put so much time, and not just myself. I mean, there was some coaches, Lyndon Fraser, you know, Coach Butch. There were a couple managers, Malika Frank. There were some real people who put a lot of time and effort into training. A lot of women who took time off of work, left their children, and for it all to just be, hey, you know what? We don't like the fact that you're asking for minimum wage, basically, to go for a month to Bangladesh.
Yes,
I mean, at the time. And I know everybody's in a different financial situation, but they were offering me for the entire month pretty much what I was making in 3 days at my job. And, you know, it wasn't a financially viable thing to do. Some women, just because, and again, I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but there are women who are breadwinners for their family. There are single parents out here. You can't tell your mortgage broker, hey, listen, I can't pay my mortgage this month because I want to go play the game that I love.
Totally
it just didn't make any sense. And then when we spoke up about that situation, we were pretty much demonized and said
Yes.
that we were
Ostracized.
troublemakers and
Yeah.
you know, this isn't how it's going to work. And the regime said, you know, sorry, see you later, and you
Yep.
may never play for the U.S. again. We'll rather take folks who, unfortunately, at the time were not of age to be playing any kind of competitive sport, I don't feel, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. But we need 13 players or 15 players or whatever the squad number was at the time, and we are going to field the U.S. team with any, you know, whomever can go, and that's it. And those of you who don't like it, stay home.
Yeah, because the team that we went to Cayman Islands the next year, I was the head coach at IC Americas. We won all our games, and we unfortunately the game against Canada got rained out. What was funny, no rain had fallen in the island for 3 months.
And 5 minutes after they called the game, because, you know, we ran out of overrate,
and
then the sun came out.
Yeah, and the problem was I was very disappointed there too that the ICC Americas did not decide to have a rain date, because when we were leaving that next day, it seemed like the hottest freaking day, and the sun was so bright. We all at the airport like, damn.
Well, they called the game at like 4:30 in the afternoon, saying, "Hey, we've now reached the 5 over minimum. It can constitute a game."
And because what Karen is talking about, just from about the women's, I always recall we had a practice in New York. It was a January. The temperature was like minus. It was like 19 degrees, cold as hell. Thing with women cricketers at indoor facility in Brooklyn. And when I got there, the place had like about 30 odd women there. And there were some women who came from New Jersey, caught public transportation. So they had to stand up out in the bus stop there on Utica Avenue, wait for the bus in 19 degrees cold. So one of them, I gave a lift back to Jersey. And it turned out she come from the same hometown as I in Linden, and we talking. And I turned to her, I said, you know what? I would bet you this. The male cricketers would have never showed up like you guys did in this temperatures. That showed the dedication of these women. We used to have women cricketers who would come from Maryland to come and train on weekends in New York.
So drive from Connecticut.
Yes. Yeah, when Karen them
flying from Florida just for a weekend.
Florida. She and Monique would fly in from Florida on weekends to come and train.
Wow.
You know,
on our own expense. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So the regime, like Karen said, they really missed the boat.
Oh yeah, they sure did. They sure did. And you know the thing about it, they didn't understand the gold mine they were sitting on in terms of women. Because one of the things I said to some of them, these women, in trying to get sponsorship for the cricket for them playing, you don't have to sell cricket. All you had to do was sell active women. There's so many companies here in the US that love to sponsor active women, because you got all these sporting wear and all these things. That was all you had to do. You didn't have to sell cricket. You know, they would, but they didn't. So
I'll jump on that bandwagon real quick. I mean, I don't, you know, American cricket in America has never been huge, but I made contact with somebody. His name was Sai Vaji, and I said, hey, he came. We were in Fort Lauderdale, and I met up with him there, and I said, hey, I want some stuff for free. You know, I want some new kit. He said, okay, write me an email. I wrote him an email the next day. A huge box full of Reebok stuff showed up at my house a week later.
Whoa.
Everything from shoes to bats, helmets, everything. And it was that simple. It was that simple. So I went to them and I said, hey, I want to write to Oakley for, you know, we'll get glasses for everyone.
Right.
They told me no. The U.S. Cricket Association told me no.
Yeah.
Can't use your logo, can't use your letterhead.
Yeah. You see, you're starting to see, Andy, you're starting to see why the cricket is where it is. It's still stagnant because one of the things.
I mean, it's not even stagnant. It's not even the word.
Yes, I mean,
it seems to have regressed. You know, based on what you guys saying, it has regressed. You know, it was actually at a better place some years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I just talk from a New York perspective. We used to have these tournaments every summer. We called it the Red Stripe Cup, where it would have all the various Caribbean countries fielding a team. And that was some high caliber because lots of teams would bring in guys from their native countries to fill in their team. So we had some high level cricket. And when you went to those matches, especially like if it was Jamaica playing Barbados, you had a big crowd. Guyana playing Jamaica or Barbados, you had a huge crowd. There was a lot of interest and so on and so forth. And all those things, because one of the things people thought, you just rest in your laurels and things would just happen. You had to be on top of things and put a foundation that would get those kinds of cricket events and other things where you put in the work, you get the sponsors, and it becomes you develop that automation because you've developed a system. But that didn't happen. And all our cricket here in the United States was always built on personalities. So if certain personalities weren't around, we weren't able to get things done. And some of those guys have passed on, and
Nothing has changed.
Or some of those guys have gotten old and they don't come around anymore. And the new group that's in, they ain't nowhere close to those guys to make contacts with the different government officials, and so things have digressed. You have seen people have lost cricket grounds for those reasons, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen. I know it's not the best of circumstances in the U.S., but we do hope that we will hear your voice. We can still hear your voice from time to time. It really was an honor and a pleasure having
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Here with us.
Yes.
All right. And I mean, I can see there's so much cricket in you, and
Yeah. I told
we want to look, in the meantime, as USA cricket is sorting things out, we really want to look at the game itself, just like we did today. Talk about technique and so on, and we hope that in time, we can really get people interested in
I hope so.
in our own little way. All
I
right.
do hope so.
Yes.
Thank you, and
thank you so much, guys.
For everyone who listened.
All right. Good seeing you,
Karen.
Karen.
All right. Take care.
Good night,
and
guys.
All right. Take care.
Be well.